Hello and welcome back to the Punchers Chance podcast, and welcome to the preview show where we have a look at everything coming up in boxing this week. And it's a big one, it's a special one. It's Chris Eubank Jr. versus Connor Benn at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We should have had it back in October 2022, but we're getting it now, courtesy of Ring Magazine. Where do we even start? We'll start with you, I suppose, Harry, because you weren't in the review show last week. But what a fight night, right?
Yeah, finally. It's quite funny. We were talking a couple of weeks back, haven't we, when that first press conference happened and he got smashed across the head with an egg. And we just said, it's April 26th, that can't come quick enough. And out of nowhere, it's just snuck up on us. And yeah, I'm really excited for Saturday night. And, you know, we're going to dive into the card a bit later on. But this card is for a really strong card as well, top to bottom. So I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, that main event is something that I'm very excited about.
Yeah, I think definitely this fight is probably the biggest fight we're going to see in Britain this year, possibly for the next few years, because it feels like, with all the history behind it, obviously with the fathers and their rivalry and all the build-up, it's one of those fights where even boxing fans or people who are not usually a fan of boxing will tune in to watch it and see what happens on Saturday night. So I think it's going to be massive, and very much looking forward to hopefully being there to watch it on Saturday.
Yeah, it's such a weird one though, isn't it? Because I keep sort of, when I'm talking to particularly non-boxing fans about it, and they're saying, like, oh, you know, who do you think is going to win and why and blah, blah, blah. And we'll obviously get onto our predictions at the end. But I keep almost saying, I kind of explain why I think who's going to win is who's going to win. And they go, oh, it's not really that great a fight then, is it? And it's a weird one because it's almost like it's a bad boxing fight, but a great fight for the fans at the same time. Like, when you actually really dig into it, it doesn't make a huge amount of sense. But does boxing make a huge amount of sense a lot of the time? Not really, no. Like I said, we're going to have to try and somehow preview all of this, skirting around the predictions for what we think is going to happen in the main event until the very end. So obviously stick around for that. But what kind of fight are you expecting? Like, what kind of fight are we going to see?
I think I would say you're obviously going to expect Connor Benn to start really fast. I think his best hopes are getting Chris Eubank out there within the first 6 rounds. So expect him to come out, try and take the centre of the ring early. And if Chris Eubank is smart, he'll try and use his experience. He's obviously got the size and weight advantage to try and use as well. Look to jab him off, I think. Wait for him to tire himself out and then pick him off late or win a points decision. But my concern with that is I don't know if Eubank's jab is good enough to be able to keep Connor Benn off if he keeps coming at him for those first early couple of rounds. And Eubank has got a tendency to let his left hand slip sometimes when he's throwing out that jab. So we've seen it with the likes against Billam-Smith where he got caught with a big right hand and that ended that first fight. So he's going to have to be careful on Saturday. Even though he probably is a heavy favourite with most, I still think that, as we say, there's a puncher's chance with everyone. And Connor Benn is definitely one of those fighters that will look for that on Saturday.
I think it'll be interesting to see how Connor comes out when everyone leaves the ring and the referee brings them together, gives them their final instructions, and then we hear that first bell. You know, all I'm expecting Connor is to do is just to run across the ring and put immediate pressure on Chris Eubank. And I think Chris Eubank's the sort of fighter that's going to stand there and think, well, hang on a minute, you're not going to do that to me. I'm going to do it to you as well. And I think, you know, there's talks this week from the grand arrivals that was on Tuesday that I've watched, and everyone's saying this isn't going past 6 rounds. You know, I think if it goes past 6 rounds, well, the fight's a completely different fight then, really, because then you're starting to think, okay, maybe Connor Benn's game plan might have been wrong, and then Chris Eubank might get on top of it from there. But that size difference as well. Normally when we do a preview show, we're not allowed, we do it on a Monday of the fight week, of a big fight night. This week we've managed to actually see him on fight week, and we saw him at the grand arrivals on Tuesday night, and they looked, well, the size difference is unbelievable. It's So that's definitely going to be a factor in the fight. I think another factor in it as well is the rehydration clause on it. You know, we've had a lot of talks over the last couple of days. Chris Eubank Sr. has come out and said it's a circus and all that. You know, how much is that going to affect Chris Eubank Jr. On fight night? Because I believe, it's 160 and they have to weigh in the morning at 170, which is never really... He's never had to do that before, Chris Eubank. So it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to that. But, mate, this fight is just really good. Fair play.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about sort of Connor Benn's emotions. And this, I think that will be the difference, is this is such an emotional fight, right? It's like we were saying with Ben Whitaker and Liam Cameron last week, you know, the emotions involved in that. And I think, like you say, I think who is going to be able to handle the emotions better? Probably Chris Eubank Jr. We've seen he keeps a lid on it. If anything, he actually provokes Connor Benn into the reactions he gives, and does so very well. But actually, will that emotion to a point help Connor Benn? And, you know, like we always say, it's boxing. And if Connor Benn can show even an ounce of power that he showed earlier stages of his career, now up at middleweight, then there's every chance that that emotion, all it needs is that one shot and it will change a night. We saw it. AJ Dubois, on paper, great fight. Very quickly, the right shot can make that a one-sided beatdown. And will we see that in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium? I don't know. You'll have to wait until the end to see what I think. And then obviously wait till Saturday to see exactly what happens. But I think, yeah, those kind of two separate sides of the emotions is going to be really interesting to see. The big talking point has always been, obviously, egg slap, press conference, all of this drama, excitement. We'll start with you, Ben. Is there a chance that possibly this might disappoint? I hate to be that guy, but is there a chance that maybe this might not be the best fight we ever see? Or do you think it has everything that it's almost impossible? And without you cursing it like you always do.
Yeah, I'll try not to curse here, but I think the build-up, I think we still haven't seen the antics. Obviously, we're recording this on a Wednesday morning, so we've still got a couple of days to fight night. So I still think there's probably some tricks up someone's sleeve somewhere where we'll see some antics. But yeah, like you said, sometimes with these big fights, there could be such a spectacle beforehand, and then they get into the ring and it could just be a bad clash of styles, and it turns into a bit of a ball fest more than anything. I suppose you could say a bit of a scrappy fight that no one really enjoys, and you get to the end of those 12 rounds and everyone's a bit deflated. But I can't see that happening on Saturday night, if I'm being honest. I think just with all the hatred between these two, it is genuine hatred between not just these two, but the families, I think, running back over 30 years. So I feel like something big will happen on Saturday. It's difficult to call exactly what will happen, but I think we will have a huge British boxing moment that will go down in history to look back on for years to come.
I think this is the biggest fight in Britain this year. And it's quite funny. I was looking before we did this preview, and both of these boys haven't fought, only fought once since September 2023. So they've had that period of time where they've been out the ring rust, and of course, Chris Eubank's the most active, really, if you make the argument. He was out the last back in, I believe, October on the Better BF Bivol 1 card. But the other concern I've got is there's a lot of talk this week about Connor Benn coming out of the gates quickly, putting it on him and using his strength to stop him early. From his last couple of performances over in the States, all right, he hasn't shown, the performances were good, and it was good to see him back in the ring. But is the power still there? Is the power that Ben had before all of this sort of drama that happened between him in the first fight? Has that power gone? And can he find that shot that he needs early, if that's the game plan? I don't know what the game plan is. None of us do. But there's something there with the power.
Yeah, I do agree. And I think, do you know what? To go back to kind of what I said, I think the thing that will make or break whether or not this fight will live up or die by its sword is the energy in the stadium. The now 65,000-seater sellout that was record-breaking on the pre-sale and took a little while to get moving and has finally sold out officially this afternoon as we're recording this. That will be the difference. Because actually, I think you could put a game of chess on in the middle of a boxing ring, like an actual game of chess. And if the energy was right in the stadium, it would look exciting. And I think that can be the difference when there's that kind of tension and nerves to the point where every little punch, every little missed shot is like an intake of breath or celebrated like it's a huge knockout. That is what I think will carry or kill this fight. And I think there's just too much excitement for it to kill it. There's no way that there's not going to be the energy in the stadium, and it's a brilliant stadium for it. I've been fortunate enough to start getting there for the launch press. It is phenomenal, like genuinely magical when you stand in there. And imagining it full now, me and Adam Smith were talking when the lights had just gone out and there was just the screen behind us and the advertising hoardings around us that had Connor Benn versus Eubank on it, and it was completely black. And just imagining all the people in there and the ring in the middle, it was just like, oh yeah, it's a recipe for success. So I think we're just looking forward to it. I feel like I'm such a hypocrite now because I did criticize this fight. And I stand by my statement that it was a better fight in 2022 than it is now. But fuck it, it's still a great fight. I still want to see it. So I'm happy I'm seeing it. We've kind of gone through most of it, predictions aside. So we'll park that for a moment and we'll move on to the rest of the card, which I know you've been saying, Harry, you're particularly excited about. But where do you even start in terms of the fights you're excited about?
What fights open in the night? There's rumours of Viddal Riley, Chev Clarke opening the night. That's a main event on a Boxer show or a Matchroom show somewhere else in the country. Chris Billam-Smith, I think, is in an incredible fight against Dobson. I think that's a potential. I'm not going to say it. We got a trilogy. We got the same sort of trilogy like Derek Chisora, Tyson Fury, the trilogy that probably everyone didn't want, but when it comes to fight night, we're probably thankful that we've got it. And then Liam Smith against Aaron McKenna. That for me is an interesting fight because Aaron McKenna's coming up. He's a little bit unknown, I think. He hasn't had that sort of big fight yet, big test. And on Saturday night, he's got that big test against Liam. And the question for Liam is now, especially after that Chris Eubank fight, how much has he got left? How much does he want it still? And, he was speaking at the Ground of Rivals on Tuesday and he couldn't believe that he's been given this opportunity again because let's not forget, he was meant to be on that massive Wembley card in September of last year and he got pulled out, I want to say, fight week of that through illness. But for me, the more you read about this fight card, the more, you think, these are good matchups. And the main event speaks for itself, but to have an undercard like that, I think is really good.
Yeah, it's a very good list of fights. It's a bit of a mix. In terms of Anthony Yard, Lyndon Arthur, I'm not particularly that bothered about in terms of a trilogy. I think that's probably the easiest fight on the card to call. Liam Smith, like you said, is, I think the thing with the Liam Smith fight is how much has Liam Smith got left. Obviously, he's had a lot of injuries over the last few years, has been inactive, so I think that what makes that fight a lot closer. If the best version of Smith turns up, I think he should get the better of McKenna, but you're not certain what Smith you're going to get. So that's what makes that fight interesting. Billam-Smith and Glanton is a bit of a mix of styles. Glanton's going to be, again, I think, similar to the main event, like Connor Benn, someone who's going to be looking to get Billam-Smith out there. He's a big hitter. Just whether he can land that big shot against someone of Billam-Smith, who is probably the highest level of opponent that he's faced. And then you've got what could be the fight of the night in Viddal Riley and Chev Clarke. Again, a bit of a mix of styles. Riley's looked immense every time you've seen him and looks like he could just outbox anyone who's in there against him, against Clarke, who's looking to bounce back from that defeat last time out. So he really needs a win on Saturday as well.
Yeah, you've pretty much summed them all up pretty well. But Chev Clarke, Viddal Riley is the pick of the fights for me. Arsenal versus Tottenham in terms of their footballing allegiance in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's that generation of coming through Team GB, cruiserweights, Viddal Riley was probably considered the pick of the bunch through the amateurs, but now in the pros has had, for various reasons, injuries, pullouts, KSI, delays in his professional boxing career. And we're seeing it now come to fruition, I think. 12-0 versus 10-1, so hard to pick a winner. And that's the one that's got me really, thinking and questioning. And then, like you said, to see Liam Smith, what has he got left? After that Chris Eubank Jr. fight, the first fight, absolutely dominant. Real backs against the wall performance from Eubank Jr. to win in that second fight. The doubts people had on him going into that second fight, he proved he still has it because of the win over Liam Smith. So if that still stands, then the Liam Smith that's only lost to Chris Eubank Jr. then also, isn't far from top level if he can prove it. And Aaron McKenna's the kind of win and the kind of fight that if he can get it, absolutely proves he's still got it. He's still about, and he does still mean a bit of business. So many good fights, so many difficult fights. And really looking forward to that, if not predicting it, which I think, do you know what we'll do? I'm going to mix up a little bit. I reckon we'll do the predictions now because we'll need time afterwards to justify our predictions, I think, because we'll have good reasoning behind it rather than saving it to the very end. So, for all you prediction fans listening, I know there's lots of you, this is the one that matters. I love these. They always have a bit more to them, don't they? Predictions that really matter, the ones we really care about. These are the ones I want to win. The Dalton Smith versus Jermaine's I can live with losing, but these are the ones you really want to win. Viddal Riley versus Chev Clarke, rumoured to be the first fight.
This is the biggest one of the year, I think.
Yeah, almost certainly. Viddal Riley, Chev Clarke, cruiserweight 12-rounder. The start off the biggest one of the night. Who else could it be than the fence sitter himself, Harry Tovey? What are you going for?
Why have you picked me to go first on this one? Damn you, Samuel Hill. This is the fight. I can't believe you've done this, Sam. I honestly do not know who wins this fight. This is a brilliant fight. I believe it's for the British title as well. So that's on the line. Chev Clarke coming off a loss. Viddal Riley, like you said, he's had a bit of a hot and cold career. I've got Riley by stoppage. I saw a lot in that last fight in Monaco from Chev Clarke that I believe that Viddal Riley has got the technique and the resilience to, take some punishment, but then also dish it out. And he'll dish it out late in that fight. And he'll get the stoppage win, round 8.
That's a big shout there.
Yeah, I'm not confident, but that's what I'm going for.
I've gone for Viddal Riley to win as well. I hate this because I love the two of them, but I've gone Viddal Riley to win by decision just because
where you at, man?
I think
I don't know what you're doing.
Your best mate. You're going against your best mate. Oh,
I have gone against him. I just think Riley will. I think we've seen previously in Clarke's fight sometimes he gets caught a bit too much, which I think Riley will take advantage of. And not only that, I think Riley can mix it up. He can fight on the back foot, but will be able to mix it as well and be smart enough, I think, to hold on to Clarke in the right moments where he's looking to apply that pressure. So I think I could see Riley probably nicking was it over 12 rounds, maybe 8-4 split, 7-5 split, something like that.
That's shocking. Put the clip in here of Chev Clarke. He'll be disappointed in you, I'm sure, as he was last time. Saying that, he had his arm around my shoulder, and I'm going for a Viddal Riley points decision for pretty much the same reason you boys have. But it feels horrible because it's on a razor edge, right? And we've all gone for one, but I'm only 2 or 3% away from moving over to the other side, and we've all chosen that 2 or 3 this way, and there's every chance that we're all going to have egg on our face on Sunday morning. Excuse the Connor Benn pun there. I had to get that one in. Next up, Chris Billam-Smith versus Brandon Glanton. Of course, Harry kicked off the last one. This is another cruiserweight 12-rounder. Ben, you go first, then me, then Harry. What are you going for?
I am going for Chris Billam-Smith by decision. I think it'll be I think Glanton will get some success early on, but as long as Billam-Smith can get through those first couple of rounds, survive what Glanton throws at him in terms of big hitting shots, because I think that's what he's going to go for. I think Glanton will tire towards the back end of the fight, and that's where Billam-Smith will come into his own end. So I see Billam-Smith. I'll go for a points decision, but I wouldn't be shocked if Billam-Smith stops him late.
And just as you've said that, I'm going to go for Chris Billam-Smith knockout. We're going to see a repeat of last weekend, a boxer, future pay-per-view star, as they were trying to bill him for, picked a loss, and now in the rematch, he's going to have a little bit of emotion, a little bit of heart, and he's going to win by knockout. He's going to get a late stoppage against Brandon Glanton.
Well, I got his name wrong earlier, but I think Brandon Glanton is going to cause a massive upset on Saturday night, and I believe he's going to stop Chris Billam-Smith. Yeah.
Wow.
I've seen Ade Oladipo's put something on Twitter that he saw Glanton in the gym and he said, don't blink. So he's coming, he's the only non-British fighter on the card. I don't think he can go the distance because of what Ben said, so I think he's going to stop him. Well, I'm a massive fan of Chris Billam-Smith, so again, it's like the first fight.
Show.
Yeah, it is.
This might be a podcast first. Not only
I want to make it interesting.
Has Harry said something with absolute chest, no question marks. He's gone for the non-Brit. I can't believe what I'm seeing, and I'm here for it. Yeah. This is what exciting fight weeks do to you.
It's a bit like you, though. You said you're not interested in Chris Eubank Jr. against Connor Benn, and look at you now. You can't wait for it. So we're both hypocrites, I think.
Fair point.
In a way.
Next up, Anthony Yarde versus Lyndon Arthur, light heavyweight 12-rounder. To deflect from myself here, it's the trilogy, like you said, that no one asked for, but the one we're going to get either way. And I think the next saga in a very strange career for Anthony Yarde, which involves either very poor, often TBA, last-minute fights, some of the best light heavyweights in the world, or just Lyndon Arthur a couple of times. That's been his resume so far. And I think this time it's going to end in a finish to Anthony Yarde. What about you?
Yeah, I've gone the same as well. I've gone Anthony Yarde by stoppage. I think, obviously, Lyndon Arthur's got that victory over him, a split decision a few years ago. They rematched and Yarde stopped him in the rematch. So this is to sort of settle it. But I feel like Yarde, after those first two fights, sort of realises he can walk through Lyndon Arthur's punches a bit more now. So I think he'll be willing to take a bit more risks on Saturday night and try and walk him down. So I think Yarde will stop him within the first 6 rounds.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think Yarde gets a stoppage. The first fight, Yarde had some personal problems outside of the ring and still took the fight. And then obviously the rematch, he showed exactly what happened. I think we could ignore his last outing on Boxer because of all the sort of issues he's had with Queensberry in recent times. And I think he gets his career back on track on Saturday night with an emphatic stoppage win. And in the summer, we'll get to see Joshua Buatsi, Anthony Yarde. So I think Yarde, 6 rounds knockout.
Wow. Fair enough. Bold call. I like it.
Yeah.
Next up, Liam Smith versus Aaron McKenna, middleweight 12 round. Obviously, Liam Smith had some of his career, I think, up at super middle, but this one's a middleweight. Aaron McKenna, the Irishman training out of America. What are you going for this one, Harry?
I knew you were coming to me. I think it's a tough one. This one is a bit like Viddal Riley and Chev Clarke, where I honestly don't know. Is it too early for McKenna? Which I do think it is, but has Liam Smith got enough left? Has he got enough hunger to have another go at it? And, he's got aspirations of fighting the winner on Saturday night in the future, but I think McKenna does it. I think McKenna does it on a very close split decision. Yeah.
This is the hardest one to call, I think, off the card, bar possibly the main event. But
yeah,
like we said earlier, it's a lot down to what version of Liam Smith turns up. And I think Liam Smith does win on Saturday. I've got him winning by decision. I think that just added experience, and he still is one of the best middleweights in Britain, even though he's been inactive over the last few years, and those injuries, we don't know the extent of them, but I think he'll still have enough on Saturday night to take out Darren McKenna, which realistically for McKenna, I don't think will make much of an impact on his career going forward. I still think he'll have plenty to give, and it'll be a lot learned from Saturday night against Billam-Smith. But I think it will be the man from Liverpool who picks up the win.
Fair enough. I'm, again, going against the normal grain, and I'm going to agree with Harry. I'm thinking that Aaron McKenna's going to do this business.
Oh.
I think it's going to be a little bit like Callum Smith, Josh Boatty, where it kind of bounces back and forth, and you're like, who's going to do it, who's going to get it, and they're both going to kind of drain themselves in each other, and it'll be a bit of a war. And I just think Aaron McKenna, not the biggest hitter at middleweight, but he's nice and tall, and I think he's going to do the business in that one. And I can't believe I've done this. I've stitched you up here, Ben, because I've set you up for the main event prediction first, and then we'll go to Harry and then myself. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Connor Benn, middleweight, 12-rounder at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, April 26th. Benjamin Thomas, what are you going for?
No, I'm glad you've come to me first, because I think I'm going to be different to you two. I'm taking a bit of a punt, but I am calling it. Connor Benn stops Chris Eubank within the first 6 rounds. I think he wins by stoppage on Saturday. I just got this feeling that he's going to come out very fast. He's going to put a lot of pressure on Chris Eubank. And I agree that if he doesn't get him out of there within the first couple of rounds, it's definitely Eubank's fight from there on out. But I just got this feeling that Eubank is going to drop that left hand, and that big right hand's going to come over and completely switch the fight and cause a lot of problems. And I think Benn stops him, probably stops him on his feet, but I think he does stop him.
I can see that. You know, there's so many different ways you can see this fight playing out in your mind. But I think Chris Eubank Jr. will win on a very close decision, 115, 130, 116, 112. But the one thing I want to point out as well, what will be interesting, is this going to be like the first main event that both fighters may get booed into the ring?
Yeah, probably.
You know, so I think
they're both the villain and on Saturday.
Exactly. So I've got Eubank Jr. close points decision win.
It's bold. I like it. Really big from you, Ben. Big prediction from a big man. I think for this one,
I was waiting for that.
Okay, I've been thinking about this all week, all day today. I've been at work. I've been staring blank at walls. People are going, "What are you doing, Sam?" And I'm picturing. I know exactly what's going to happen in this fight. Chris Eubank Jr. is going to win by a comfortable points decision, and the reason he's going to do so is because he's going to use up here, and he is going to be more than happy for 65,000 people to boo him for 36 minutes, knowing full well that it's boring, it's uninteresting, but he's going to win that fight by outboxing Connor Benn. And at the end of it, he's going to stand in the ring, they're all going to be booing him, and he's going to, be fine with that. And I think that's going to be the difference. I think this is an event that Connor Benn will get caught up in his emotions. We've already seen it, he can barely sit in a room for 36 minutes with him without losing his head, let alone if that's Connor Benn in the ring or Chris Eubank Jr. in the ring punching him. And that's why I think it's not about boxing ability. It's not about size. It's not about anything. It's about who's going to box the smarter fight. And for me, that's Chris Eubank Jr. It's bold, but that is how I feel about that one. So we need to lock in our rounds, obviously, for the Boxing News app, and then we can finish off with a few final thoughts. What are we going for the fight? So let me just do the maths quickly and then submit that.
Do you know the one thing? We've gone for decent predictions here. We've all gone a little bit different. Maybe someone's gone a bit crazier than others, but we've done quite well there, I think. We all haven't gone the same with the main event. I think it's going to be a very close 12-round fight. You think it's going to be one-sided, and Ben just thinks, supporting his Ben, that Connor Ben's just going to run out there and knock him out within 6. I like it.
we get the rematch in as well if there's a stoppage,
Yeah, okay.
which is what everyone wants.
Do you know, it would be quite funny, mine. We've had all this build-up, all this back and forth, all this drama, and they get to the ring, they fight for 12 rounds, and it gets called a draw. Can you just imagine that?
I can imagine it, yeah.
It would be unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I do like you say.
Probably will now because I've said it, but there we go.
Yeah, like you say, though, we've all gone for different predictions, and I think that is the hallmarks of a really good card.
Yeah.
Albeit, people are saying this isn't great, it's not a great card, this, that, and the other. And yes, sure, by Turkey standards, it could be better, I suppose. But if this is a British fight night prior to Turkey's involvement in boxing, people are going, oh my God, Christmas has not just come early, it's come 3 times in the same year. This is a great card outside of the context of the madness that we've seen over the last couple of years. And let's just enjoy it. I think this will go down as one of those special nights in British boxing that people always talk about. People always seem to reference certain fights. Dillian Whyte, Derek Chisora, Chris Eubank versus Nigel Benn. There's certain fights and moments in just captured in British boxing history, and this is probably the next one, I'd imagine. I know. Have we seen a bigger fight this, let's call it Riyadh season onwards for you, Ben? Do you think we've seen a bigger fight than this in reality?
I wouldn't say in the UK. I think beyond the UK, the likes of Usyk Fury was probably bigger. But in the UK, since, like you said, the whole Riyadh season involvement, I'd say the only one that could possibly rival it was Dubois AJ, just because of the magnitude, and obviously it's heavyweight, so I guess everyone's interest when it's a heavyweight. But I just think, like I said, the history with this, the family rivalry, the two fathers and the wars that they had with each other in the 90s. Even I was too young not to see those, so it's a long time since. But yeah, it's if this fight on Saturday could live up to either of those fights that those fathers had, we'd be in for a real treat. And it's mad as well, we were meant to see these two obviously in 2022, and if you look at the undercard for that original fight compared to the undercard we're going to have on Saturday, no disrespect to the fighters on that original undercard, but the disparity between the two is quite crazy. So it shows the levels that we sort of expect now from boxing cards going forward. Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really good night of fights and a very exciting main event.
And I think the one thing to point out as well, with the card back in when they were meant to fight, that was £25 on pay-per-view. On Saturday night, we only have to pay 20 quid to watch it. So I think that's even a big win. But yeah, like you said, there's not been a rivalry like this in British boxing for a very long time. Froch Groves, this is the biggest fight that we're going to have in Britain this year. And I think if Fury and Joshua doesn't get made, this is the biggest fight. And, you've seen Eddie Hearn saying whoever wins this fight is going to be the new face of British boxing. I don't kind of believe that, but they've got potential. But it would be interesting to see where both go. But yeah, just roll on Saturday now, and let's just hope Ben doesn't get that main event prediction right, because I'll probably win him the predictions.
Yeah, fingers crossed. We can only hope. And like you say, I don't think Eddie Hearn's right in saying that, because I think AJ Fury sells out Wembley like that. Whereas this has obviously taken a little while to sell out. I think it was always going to sell out. I was never under the question, guys, that it wasn't going to, but it did take a little bit longer than maybe some people expected. So we'll wait and see, and we'll wait and see until Saturday. In the meantime, subscribe, follow, like, all the other things, comment, all that good stuff to the channel, because we've hopefully, I can say with 100% confidence that there's a chance we bring you content from Fight Night on Saturday. And I think, for that chance, you should subscribe, because I can also guarantee you that if we do bring you content, it's going to be the best. I can say that with certainty, in my opinion. So subscribe, follow for all that good stuff on TikTok. Ben's doing some great stuff on TikTok as well, so follow us on there. Thank you all for tuning in, as always, and we'll catch you all next week.
Punches chance. Punches Chance Podcast.